and welcome to The Knowing Show. I am your host, Christene Marie. Y'all, we join every single morning to dive into our daily lesson from A Course in Miracles. And the reason why we do this is because this is our time to, as Theodore Roosevelt says, enter the arena, to go into the arena. And even if our face is marred by dust and grime, at least we know the taste of triumph and also the taste of defeat. In so many ways, it's really what constitutes living. It's not always going to be the highs. In fact, if we always had highs, they wouldn't even be highs. We need to have the lows to juxtapose them. And so the arena is why we're here in so many ways. It's the cultivation of ourselves. It's the cultivation of our minds, our soul, our body, our spirit. And to that point, a daily Course in Miracles a Course in Miracles and the daily lessons that it offers, I started reading through them last year. And I did not keep up with it. And so at the beginning of this year, I knew that I wanted to read through it. And I knew that it would help me with accountability if I was going live with it. So here we are. And I am live on my phone this morning. So I don't know how the orientation is showing up, but I'm going to pull up on another device to read the lesson for this morning. So bear with me while I pull that up, and then we will get started. All right. So I just want to give a quick preamble of some of the lessons that have come before. And actually, I'm just going to read it here on my computer, and then I'll come back to you. So lesson 151 says, all things are echoes of the voice of God. Lesson 152, the power of decision is my own. Lesson 153, in my defenselessness, my safety lies. Lesson 154, I am among the ministers of God. Lesson 155, I will step back and let him lead the way. And then today's lesson, lesson 156, I walk with God in perfect holiness. Today's idea but states the simple truth that makes the thought of sin impossible. It promises there is no cause for guilt, and being causeless, it does not exist. It follows surely from the basic thought so often mentioned in the text. Ideas leave not their source. If this be true, how can you be apart from God? How can you walk the world alone and separate from your source? We are not inconsistent in the thoughts that we present in our curriculum. Truth must be true throughout. If it be true, it cannot contradict itself, nor be in parts uncertain and in others sure. You cannot walk the world apart from God because you could not be without him. He is what your life is. Where you are, he is. There is one life. That life you share with him. Nothing can be apart from him and live. Yet where he is, there must be holiness as well as life. No attribute of his remains unshared by everything that lives. What lives is holy as himself, because what shares his life is part of holiness, and could no more be sinful than the sun could choose to be of ice, the sea elect to be apart from water, or the grass to grow with roots suspended in air. There is a light in you which cannot die, whose presence is so holy that the world is sanctified because of you. All things that live bring gifts to you and offer them in gratitude and gladness at your feet. The scent of flowers is their gift to you. The waves bow down before you, and the trees extend their arms to shield you from the heat and lay their leaves before you on the ground, that you may walk in softness, while the wind sinks to a whisper around your holy head. The light in you is what the universe longs to behold. All living things are still before you as they recognize who walks with you. The light you carry is their own, and thus they see in you their holiness, saluting you as Savior and as God. Accept their reverence, for it is due to holiness itself which walks with you, transforming in its gentle light all things unto its likeness and its purity. Thus, this is the way salvation works. As you step back, the light in you steps forward and encompasses the world. It heralds not the end of sin in punishment and death. In lightness and in laughter is sin gone, because its quaint absurdity is seen. It is a foolish thought, a silly dream, not frightening. Ridiculous perhaps, but who would waste an instant in approach to God himself, for such a senseless whim. Yet you have wasted many, many years on just this foolish thought. The past is gone with all its fantasies. They keep you bound no longer. The approach to God is near. And in the little interval of doubt that still remains, you may perhaps lose sight of your companion and mistake him for the senseless ancient dream that is now the past. Who walks with me? This question should be asked 1,000 times a day till certainty has ended doubting and established peace. Today, let doubting cease. God speaks for you in answering your question with these words. I walk with God in perfect holiness. I light the world. I light my mind and all the minds with which God created one with me. Wow, y'all, this is such an incredibly beautiful lesson for today. And I'm so grateful for this. We talked a little bit about it last night, about the concept of if God is walking with us, are we actually basically existing as ones who are creating a space for him to dwell, like the holiness of God? Are we actually able to accept his presence and honor his presence by the way that we're living our life? You know, it's the tree. How do I want to say this? A tree is known by its fruit. And so if we're having good fruit in our lives, in fact, the fruit of living one with God is love and joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. There's 9 different fruits of what it effectively looks like to be integrated with God as the tree. And we're a branch, we're a vine, we're integrated with him, and thus we're looking and living like him. And one of the things that I thought was so beautiful from this text this morning is the fact that the way that we live ultimately is a reflection to other people and reminding them who they are. You know what? When we think of people like Mother Teresa, she really ushered in the presence of God and loved and cared for so many hurting souls. And so when we think about the way that she showed up for them and look at the way they responded to her, there was such a receptivity because they felt so loved and so accepted, but there was also a calling forth. Like knows like. And so if you see God in someone and God is in you, which I believe God is in all, then it actually calls forth, it kind of beckons forth, it challenges us, it actually calls us to a higher standard. Because so often, Michelangelo effectively said along the lines of, it would be the greatest detriment for us to die not having aimed high enough. So it's actually more detrimental to achieve your dreams than to have dreamed so big that we actually didn't achieve it. The shame in that is that our aim is too low. Our standards are too low. We have too low a standard of for our own selves. Do we actually see ourselves the way God sees us? The way that we could be, our own potential? And so as we're talking about this morning, are we able to see with God's eyes our own selves, to be able to hold ourselves to that kind of a standard, the standard for which is our destiny and our calling and why we're here? And then in living accordingly, we call others to hold a higher standard for themselves. You know, there's this concept of Jesus when he left, whether you believe it was literal or figurative, him departing from this physical earth and saying, I'm leaving my spirit, I'm giving my spirit to you. Well, now we should have millions and millions of Christ in us, because we have the ability to walk and live and be like Christ because he's in us. And so now it's not just, oh, I'm going to work today, but now I am actually bringing the presence of God into this place. And how am I going to change the atmosphere of everyone I'm around rather than me operating against their emotional thermostat? Y'all, I lived like that for so many years, where those around me bore the temperature of my emotional well-being. That's kind of like the definition of emotional codependence, rather. And so for so many years, rather than being able to have my own inner compass and my own inner thermostat of how am I doing, and I'm actually going to stay good regardless of what's going on around me, I was tossed by every whim and wake of those around me with how well they were doing or how well they weren't doing. And so if we want to bring that level of stability in our lives, in our businesses, in the way that we show up for our employees, in the way that we show up for our children, our partners, ourselves, we actually need our own weather system. This morning, I set my alarm for 3:58 this morning because I knew I have so much going on right now, and I'm in the middle of hiring, and I don't have them yet. I've got 2 interviews this afternoon, but for the time being, I feel like I'm right up to my neck with, I haven't drowned yet, but I'm really, really close to like submerging in the water. And I just knew that this morning I needed to wake up early to get that time with God and to just listen. Because the thing is that he is wanting to guide us. Yesterday we talked about this aspect of being led by him. One of my favorite verses is Isaiah 30, and it says, "You shall hear one behind you saying, 'This is the way, walk in it.'" And I experienced that for my 30th year. It was just such an incredible change in my life when I learned to hear the voice of God and to be led by him. And I just want to go back to a section. I hope I can find it easily. "The light in you is what the universe longs to behold. All living things are still before you, as before they recognize who walks with you. The light you carry is their own." Y'all, the more we are doing our work to get aligned, I think of this concept of vertical alignment. It's aligning my mind, soul, body, spirit, bringing all of that into alignment under the hierarchy of, well, who do I want to be? And then ultimately, well, who did God create me to be? Because ultimately my standards, they're usually not going to be high enough for myself and who I could be as they are God's. Because man, does God see you and me as far more brilliant, far more beautiful than we probably normally would otherwise. The way God sees us is priceless and precious. And so to adopt his view and then hold myself to that kind of standard and bring everything into alignment, my mindsets, my beliefs, my behaviors, the way that I show up, my emotional thermostat, all of that is now in alignment with something so much greater than what everyone else around me would say, think, or do. And so if I'm walking in alignment, y'all, now I've got the light of God in me. There's this concept of we are to be cities on a hill, lights that shine brightly. So what that means is that in the shining, people are going to notice. People are going to watch and listen and pay attention. And in that, the question then is, well, what is the permeation of your light? What are you actually casting? What are you bringing people into? If you think of a light standing, it casts a light for however far the radius is, circumnavigating the light. And so as we think about that, what is the warmth of your glow? What do people feel when they exist in the presence of your light? Is it akin to the love of God? And that is the highest of all standards. And y'all, a goal for me is that when I get a little bit out of alignment, I'm able to bring myself right back. Because the first part of emotional intelligence is to be aware. And then it's to understand, and then control, and then convey one's own emotions. And so to be aware, to be emotionally intelligent and thus emotionally healthy, the very first step is to be aware. And so even just yesterday, I just got out of alignment for a hot second and then came right back, and I apologized to my darling. And I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't patient," and then came right back. And that's the goal. The goal isn't that we're perfect, but the goal is that we're aware, we understand it, we control it, and we convey it. And on the other side of emotional health lies the ability for interpersonal relationships to be healthy and well. The entire definition of emotional intelligence is that first half: to be aware of, understand, control, and convey our own emotions, and the ability to handle interpersonal relationships with empathy and with wisdom. So the hallmark of our own emotional health is the health of our relationships. But it starts with you and me. Radical responsibility to go inward, to know what's going on inside of us, be aware, understand, control, and then convey it. And only then do we have the hope to have a healthy relationship. And y'all, this is the thing. I was just at the National Association of Women in Construction event in LA 3 weeks ago at this point. And emotional intelligence is not related to just our personal lives. It translates into every single area. Because if you're not feeling psychologically safe at work, well, you're definitely not going to perform your best. One of the very first books that I read regarding emotional intelligence was Brene Brown's Daring Greatly. And one of the things that is so potent is that when we feel safe emotionally, we can start getting creative. And that's so so cool. There's a vulnerability in creation. And so do we trust ourselves? Do we trust that those we're around, they'll receive what we have to offer, the creation, the ingenuity of that which we're dreaming up? I was on a call with Kamal Ravikant a couple weeks ago, and I asked him a question. I was like, how would you define the number one differentiator between humans and robots? And he kind of sat with that for a little bit, and then he came back with an answer that I loved. It went deeper than what I've come up with in the past when I've thought about this. He said imagination. And here's the thing that's so interesting. So robots can only go so far as they have data. But we ourselves, we have, with these core intelligences that we talk about, when we talk about human intelligence, it's the intellectual, yes, that's quickly being replaced by AI, emotional, spiritual, and physical. It is the cultivation of all of these human intelligences that allows for us to be able to conjure something new, something completely original that's like derived from within, that no one's told us, but we're taught from within. The Latin root of intuition is intuere, which means to be taught from within. So are we creating space and time in our lives to be taught, to be led, that thus allow for us to be a light that people can come into and learn from us and sit with us, and then we get to sit in the light of their glow and learn from them? Because every single one of us has access to God, to the divine, that nobody else can maybe even know. That's what makes your presence here on earth of value and of worth, because you have access to. My alarm just went off, and I've never had that happen on my phone. That's so funny. My alarm says I must leave. I have to go. I'm going hiking with an architect. I'm so excited. Just jumping in the chat. Michael, good to see you. Deep, good morning. Sonic, good morning. KL, oh, I'm glad you're back. It's just hard to read chats on my phone. Oh man. Zane, good morning. I love this. Everybody loves God because he can help you when you feel that you are at the lowest in your life. Ray, good morning. Cavis, good morning. Asa, good morning. Good to see you. Bang Top, hello. Vimo, oh, I'm glad you're here. Good to see you. Saba, good morning. Jack, HB, good morning. I'm glad to see you. Two wee dogs. I like your title. Oh, Bang Top, thank you. I love my yellow nails. KLW. I just saw your comment. That's so funny. Arnell, good morning. Y'all, I am so bummed I need to go. Good morning, Brian. I'm glad to see you. Best fans, good morning. I'm so bummed I need to go and leave you guys, but I will be back on tomorrow morning. Thank God for the weekend. I don't know how you all feel, but I have so much work to do. So I'm grateful for a weekend. I will see you tomorrow morning. We'll be live at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. We switch to later in the morning on the weekend so everyone can sleep in. Y'all have a wonderful day. And remember, you're a light. People need you. People need you. And they need to see God in you, because everyone could use a little more hope these days.